Very good morning to all.
Good morning.
Our esteemed speaker, Professor Arun Divakar Nath Vajpayee, Director of NIT Jalandhar, Professor L.K. Awasthi, Coordinator of the webinar, Professor R.K. Garg, and the delegates. I welcome all to the webinar. Let me start the session with the introduction of our eminent resource person. It's my proud privilege to introduce Professor Vajpayee, our resource person who will deliver an expert talk on appropriate technology for self-reliant Bharat. Professor Adrian Vajpayee is a well-known eminent educationist, economist, and administrator. As such, he does not need any introduction in the academic fraternity. There is a long list of his academic affiliations and achievements, but I would mention his profile very briefly so as not to take much time, as I know that you are eagerly waiting for Professor Vajpayee. Professor Adrian Vajpayee is at present serving as Professor of Economics at Rani Durgavati University, Jabalpur. Prior to this, he has remained Vice Chancellors of Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla, Avdesh Pratap Singh University in Rewa, Madhya Pradesh, Mahatma Gandhi Chitrakoot Gramoddaya Vishwavidyalaya Chitrakoot, Madhya Pradesh. He has a 37 years of teaching experience. He obtained Doctor of Philosophy in Economics in 1981 from University of Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. Professor Vajpayee has handled many important portfolios. Some of them are Secretary General Association of Indian Universities, Council Member Association of Commonwealth Universities, London, Council Member Australia-India Education Council, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, since 2015, Honorary Secretary and Treasurer, Indian Economic Association. He is President of India's nominee in boards of management and selection committees of many universities like Central University of Punjab, Central University of Haryana. He remained chairman, member of search committees for appointment of vice chancellors in different Indian universities. Professor Vajpayee has conferred with many awards and honors for his academic and administrative achievements by various prestigious organizations in his career. A few of these are Vivekanand Seva Alankar by Bharat Vikas Parishad, Guru Vishisht Samman, MIT Academic Excellence Award by MIT Education Group, Radhakrishnan International Award by International Association for World Peace, Ahmedabad, Ambassador for Peace Award by University Peace Federation. Professor Vajpayee has significantly contributed in developing economic tools and theories beneficial for sustainable development and national data analysis of growth, welfare, prosperity, and gross domestic happiness. The economic theories proposed by him on international forums have been much appreciated and acknowledged due to his strong hold in spiritually controlled living experiences. He has supervised 29 PhD theses and handled a number of research projects in these areas. He is on the editorial board of many reputed journals. Professor Vajpayee has widely traveled abroad and visited several universities in various countries such as UK, Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, Thailand, Portugal. He delivered about 300 expert lectures in various institutions and universities. The subjects of lectures assimilated lineage of knowledge from Vedic to the modern arts, science, philosophy, and spiritual wisdom. Though he is a professor of economics, he has done remarkable work on the role of spiritualism in academics. Professor Vajpayee also holds special affection for poetry writing and yoga. So today he will share his wisdom on appropriate technology for self-reliant power. So before inviting Professor Adrian Vajpayee, I request our worthy director, Professor L.K. Vajpayee, to share his views on the topic and about the eminent speaker. So over to worthy director, Professor L.K. Vajpayee, please.
हमारे आज के स्पीकर श्री आचार्य अरुण दिवाकर नाथ वाजपेयी जी को प्रणाम। इनकी बारे में अगर कहें तो मेरे विचार से ये हायर एजुकेशन और एजुकेशन एज सच ये में इनका योगदान अतुल्य है। और इनको अगर 3-4 शब्दों में अगर हमने डिफाइन करना है तो ये एक राष्ट्रवादी विचारक हैं, एक कवि हैं, अर्थशास्त्री हैं और शिक्षाविद हैं। अरुण सतई 2014 के रचयिता, रंग और पंकज के शिष्य, भारत द्वारा सरकार द्वारा गठित महात्मा गांधी के 150वीं जन्म उत्सव समिति के सदस्य, गृह मंत्रालय भारत सरकार की सांप्रदायिक सद्भाव राष्ट्रीय प्रतिष्ठान के संचालक मंडल में सदस्य, भाषा विशेषज्ञ समिति, संस्कृति मंत्रालय भारत सरकार, अध्यक्ष राष्ट्रीय समाज विज्ञान परिषद नई दिल्ली और कई यूनिवर्सिटीज के पूर्व कुलपति। और इनके कंट्रीब्यूशन को अगर हम कहें तो मुझे लगता है कि ये सारा समय जो है इसी में चला जाएगा। तो मेरा यही रहा कि इनको बहुत रिनोन्ड सम्मान भी मिले हैं, जिसमें हिमाचल गौरव सम्मान है, कौटिल्य बेस्ट इकोनॉमिस्ट अवार्ड है, राधा कृष्णन अंतरराष्ट्रीय शिक्षक सम्मान है, जैन मित्र अवार्ड है, एम्बेसडर ऑफ पीस अवार्ड है, गुरु विशिष्ट सम्मान है और साधक शिरोमणि सम्मान है। और ये काफी वाइडली ट्रेवल्ड हैं और इन्होंने लंदन, ऑक्सफोर्ड, कैम्ब्रिज में भी गए और लिवरपूल यूके में गए और कई देशों में ये वाइडली ट्रेवल्ड हैं। ये मुझे इनके साथ थोड़ा कार्य करने का सौभाग्य तब प्राप्त हुआ जब ये अपने कार्यकाल में हिमाचल प्रदेश यूनिवर्सिटी में थे। तो इनकी अनुयायी में वहां पे काफी अच्छे इनिशिएटिव शुरू हुए जो कि अब भी चल रहे हैं और यूनिवर्सिटी बहुत अच्छी कर रही है। मेरा फिर से एक बार प्रणाम सर। आप अपना व्याख्यान शुरू कर सकते हैं। नमस्कार।
Thank you. At the outset, I would like to acknowledge, express and register my gratitude to Professor Lalit K. Awasthi, Honorable Director of NIT Jalandhar, for having invited me for this particular talk, and that too on a very important, pertinent, relevant topic today. I'm equally thankful to Mr. Anish Sachdeva, who introduced me in such a big manner, which I think I don't really deserve. Even then, there are certain formalities from the organizers. So I speak in a hyperbolic manner about these speakers. Anyhow, it's good. Before I say dwell upon certain issues related to appropriate technology, related to our self-reliant Bharat, I, along with all of you, the faculty members, the directors, the students of NIT, and all other few friends like Afshar Alam, whom I have just heard from Delhi, and many other my few friends, join hands to request Almighty God for earliest recovery of about 79,81,468 persons who are infected by COVID-19, along with about 2,47,040 persons from India. And also, I request Almighty that the souls of the departed bodies, about 4,02,237 world over, including 6,946 persons from India, their souls to rest in eternal peace. They have died without of any fault, without any disease as such. This COVID-19 has taken a great toll of the life, physical life altogether. Our social life is also disturbed. Our psychological life is disturbed. Our economic activities has just stopped. They have come to stand still. Only flight solace is through ICT. and some industries of emergencies are functioning today. So, friends, this COVID-19 has given us some time for introspection. Introspection on our own, you see, thoughts, ideas, academics, ideologies, and many things. I am one who never think that this coronavirus has given us opportunity, because opportunity is always attached with some positive things as such. Suppose we ask about this 4.5 crore migrant laborers who are just returning back to their native homes and say, have you got opportunity out of this coronavirus? What will they feel? And also about the family members of about the 69 lakh contaminated people, and also those who have died. If we ask the family members of those persons, has this COVID-19 opportuned us to do something positive? What will they feel? In that connection only, I say it's not an opportunity at all, but certainly it has given us some time, and that time we should try to utilize for introspection, for thinking, and also for planning for the future. So, I have deliberately selected this topic, which has been approved by the generosity of the Dr. Lalit Awasthi, whom I know very well when I was the Vice Chancellor of Himachal Pradesh University. Actually, entire computer-related programs were being done by Lalit Kumar Awasthi ji only in connection with my professor there at Himachal Pradesh University. One thing we'll have to realize, that whatever we are doing today, discussing today, it's not the case of any ancient time or the time of 17th, 18th or 19th century. We are living at the time of 21st century, where India also has developed a lot along with the development of the world. Technologically also, India has obtained the capacity to create, augment the most sophisticated technology of the world. It might be the reason that our scientists may not be permitted to go for those sophisticated researches by so many diplomatic or political reasons. But so far as capacity is concerned, India is no lesser than any technologically developed country in the world. So, if you just take a quick account of the technologies and technological institutions developed in India, we find that in India we have created about 35,000 engineering colleges, which are providing about 16 lakh students for the engineering education. Similarly, we are having about 23 IITs, more than 30 NITs, more than 20 IIITs, and about 20 government-funded technical institutions. They, combining all together, generate a very good pool of technical persons who are quite knowledgeable. They have got all the capacities to comprehend analyze and also reproduce also to some extent so far as technology is concerned. Similarly, we are having number of medical institutions. There also you see generating good number of medical professionals. We are having about 600 medical colleges and institutions, including undergraduate and postgraduate, and about 80,000 students are being produced every year by these institutions. We are having good number of agricultural institutions as well, because I am enveloping technology, the basic technical institutions like IITs, but technology is not merely confined to these engineering and technological institutions, but also it's being used by agricultural institutions, medical institutions as well. We are having good number of agricultural universities and research centers. They are as good as 64 state-run agriculture universities. There are 4 deemed to be universities in agriculture and 3 central universities as such. And more than about 15 you see councils also being run by this ICAR. One guesstimate, that is guess and estimate, speak that India has got about 3,15,000 professionally qualified persons, which is a good pool as such. We are having a group of NITTRs. We are having most sophisticated institutions like ISRO, Vikram Sarabhai Space Research Centers, TIFF, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, ICERS, NIPERS, NPL, NCL, and so many other CSIR funded institutions also, and that come around you see more than 100. So what I mean to say that so far as education, imparting education related to technology is concerned, India has developed a very good infrastructure related to imparting science and technology education to the students, as well as they help the state and the central government also in their policy making. You see, coming to this very concept of self-reliant Bharat, deliberately I have not used the concept of India. When I say India, something comes into my mind that westernized, materialistic, consumerist, industrialized, one part, very small part of our country. When I say Bharat, then we come to that particular Bharat, our country, which belong to marginalized, have-nots, subaltern, living in about 6.8 lakh villages, remote forest areas, like that. So we can say that that part of our country, which constitute about 90% of area and population, that is Bharat. And how can this 90% area and population should prevail over that 10% of our population? That is the most important task to be undertaken by the policymakers, the politicians, and also the society by and large. So this self-reliance means totally depending upon ourselves, not depending for anything outside, That is not the objective of self-reliance. Self-reliance does not mean in iso-nationalism. This iso-nationalism is also a concept I am using nowadays. Nationalism is okay, but iso-nationalism, cutting yourself from the rest of the world, has never been the objective of India. India has been a firm believer of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam Ano Bhadraha Pratavoyantu Sarvata. Let the good ideas, let the good thoughts from all over the world come unto us. That has been, you see, the ideal of Indians since long. So, in isolation thinking about the country is not the objective, but at the same time, totally depending upon other countries cannot be tolerated by India and Indians as well. So self-reliant means for most of the things for which you yourself can produce, you should remain dependent upon yourself, your entrepreneurs, your industrialists, your farmers, your craftsmen, your thinkers, your own philosophers, your own policy makers. Then it is called self-reliant. But you see, I am going to use another concept, and I think my friend Lalit Kumar Avasthi and Afshar Alam, many more would appreciate. I am going to use this concept, self-propellant country. There is a categorical difference between self-reliant and self-propellant. And propellant is the basic technical terminology I am using, which doesn't need any exogenous instrument to propel yourself. There should be sufficient energy within the country which propels all the dynamism, all the dynamics of the country as a whole. So self-propellant, I think, is a more comprehensive and more useful term than the self-reliant as such. So here, I would like to just use all these two terms synonymous. Friends, the technology has divided the whole world into the countries like countries with developed technologies and countries with not that much developed technology. The countries like G8 and extending this group of G8 to G20, they have developed DC technologies like anything. In all its spheres, they have developed technology, and through developed technology, they are dominating the developing countries, including India. So the basic purpose of developing technology by these developed countries is not to cooperate with other countries, is not to help the other countries, but also dominate and exploit the countries by way of international trade, getting trade surplus from all these countries. If we see that two main factors for which India is depending upon outside the world, that is, one, technology, and another is energy sources. If India could achieve self-reliance in these two, I think her dependence upon other countries can be reduced to the minimum. I cannot say that it can come to zero, and that would be quite hypothetical, an imaginary situation for which neither we want nor we can have. Both things are not possible. You see, you just take the history of science and technology. India was quite rich in science and technology, discoveries as well as innovation. And we have got the scripted literature of all mapping of world universal resources by our Indian scientists, whom we have been calling rishis, the mapping of biodiversity, to the mapping of the cosmos, mapping of all the planets and stars, or solar systems, mapping of time, mapping of herbal plants and what not. Everything they have to see mapped, and we have got scripted literature available today also. But problem is that neither we can read that particular literature properly, nor we can validate, and that's why we cannot believe in what has been written in those literature as such. I'm not talking about that. But in the modern world means about 2.5 centuries ago, there have been a lot of development in science and technology. Science is universal. Science is all philosophy. Science is all equations, theorems. That is all universal. We cannot discriminate between the science of the West and science of the East. We cannot say that this science is of States, America, and this science of India. This is the science of Soviet Union, or this is the science of France or Germany. Science is just a science. Science is that branch of knowledge which deals with the systematic persuasion, continuous persuasion, as well as believe in a causal relationship. It believes on the experimentation, the practical knowledge of the things. That is science. And as I was mentioning that today, India has augmented good technical knowledge. Similarly, India is possessing the most powerful scientific brain today. Nowadays, the temperament has also become scientific. No young boy or girl is going to accept the things as they are until unless they suit to their mind, whether it's our rituals, our methods of worship, or anything. So scientific temperaments also become powerful within India and outside also. What I mean to say that science is universal, but technology shall have to be regional, local. When our Prime Minister said that we should be vocal for local, he was just addressing to the commodities being produced by the local persons. We may call it Swadeshi. But I am just going one step forward. We should be more vocal about the local technology. When I say that technology is country specific, technology should be region specific, technology should be local specific. And here lies the soul of appropriate technology. There cannot be any universal technology which can be used, emulated, implemented by all the countries in the same manner, because the society is different, the ecology is different, demography is different, resource pool is different, ambitions are different, culture is entirely different. In all in differentiated situations, how can you use one particular technology? That is the big question mark before us. So the appropriate technology means that we'll have to take into consideration the local factor. Local does not mean the locality, as the national factors into consideration. Local factors may belong to different dynamics which I have just narrated, not to repeat. And that technology should suit to those conditions so that there is no spillover, there is no side effect, there is no damage to the environment, and that is totally absorbed and also digested and sustainable. That is the crux of the appropriate technology. Actually, I am not one who is using this very concept. This concept has been used earlier also. There is a lot of literature available. And I'll just quote one particular economist, who is Eric Schumacher. Eric Schumacher is known for his book, Small is Beautiful. But that Small is Beautiful is based upon his work on this intermediate technology. He has founded one group of intermediate technology. As appears that one is the highly sophisticated technology, and there is one particular area which is technology is starving countries. In between the two, he has talked about intermediate technology. And afterwards, he coined this very concept of appropriate technology. And many other, economic scientists also have done work in this particular area. Appropriate technology depends upon indigenous technology. Each country has got his own indigenous base of technology, inter alia, different branches of knowledge. Say, science subjects, physics, chemistry, mathematics, social sciences, sociology, economics, history, political science, like that, and also literature and humanities. Within engineering also, they have got their own indigenous base as such. So, two other concepts we have come across: indigenous technology and intermediate technology. And then comes the appropriate technology. I do agree with all these economists and scientists, but I would like to mention that it's not a compromising technology. Compromising on any account is not tolerated by me as such. Appropriate technology is qualitative, is that strong as any technology available in the world. It is as sophisticated as any technology available in the world. It is as comprehensive, all-pervading, all-effective as the technology available in the world. So, appropriate technology means anything better, anything low, slow. It's not my concept. Appropriatedness means propriety of the technology, the placing of technology in the situations in which it is being used. It is structure specific, it is culture specific, it is a requirement specific, it is targeted, focused. And in that sense, I would like to mention, there cannot be any situation without technology. Technology means that any method, any tool, any instrument which connects two parts, two variables altogether. So anything which connects is technology. If suppose we are taking our body itself, body is a combined system. It's technology. Body has got some external parts, visible parts, and invisible parts like psychology, spiritually we call soul it also. If anything which connects our exterior of a body with interior of body, that is technology. You can say that I am talking something European. The yoga, what is yoga? Yoga is complete technology through which we are connecting different parts of our body. We are connecting our body with our pranavayu, the breathing system, our different types of pressures, different glands which are secreting the chemicals within the body, our mind, body, intellect and soul, everything is being connected, and there is a specific technology for everything as such. Asanas, you can call them only exercises, but exercises are not there. Technology based is the exercises. Pranayama is also a technology. In that sense, I am talking about. So, anything, any method, any process which connects the two or many is technology, I say. So within person, if we are want to connect with ourselves, some technology is there. Person to person, person with society, society with the largest society in the world society with the outer world, the cosmos. If we want to connect, technology is essential. If we want to produce anything by mixing two or three many factors of production, there also we'll have to use some technology. Without that, it is not possible. But that technology is our own technology. It is being absorbed. It is making us self-reliant. It is making us self-propelled. That's a matter of question. If we are importing, you see, technology from outside, which will create many problems in our body, and also will make our system weaker and weaker, that will not be appropriate one. Appropriate technology will that technology which will just remove all deficiencies in the body and also make our body, you see, strengthened, which is applicable to our body, that is applicable to the society, that is applicable to the economy, that is applicable to other factors also. And here I am coming to give you some certain examples to explain, you see, my things happen. You see, when we want to make our economy, rather our country, as a self-reliant, what should be the first and foremost is the action of our policy makers? And also, what should be the main points of focus of the thinkers of our nation? First and foremost thing is the defense. Defense technology. Any country of the world, I am speaking on behalf of all countries of the world, any country should not depend for its defense on other countries as such. They should try to develop technologies, this may be nuclear or anuclear technology, missiles or missiles technology, BrahMos or no BrahMos. I am not talking about the specific technology as such, but the protection of boundaries, protection of the country, defending the country, making a sophisticated technology fence to defend the country. The first and foremost objective should be of any country as a such. We know the boundaries of India are being surrounded by 7 countries. They are Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Nepal, Myanmar, Bhutan, and Afghanistan. And the sea boundaries are also linked with 3 main countries, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Indonesia. So my humble submission is that some appropriate technology may be remote sensing based, maybe electric wire based, maybe anything. We should try to protect our boundaries. We want to remain self-reliant over a long period. And here also, about 15,200 kilometers land boundaries and about 7,560 sea boundaries are connected with the boundaries of India. There are some countries, like the Bangladesh, we don't have much problem. Nepal, Myanmar, Bhutan, Afghanistan also, we are not having much problem. Problems are emerging from Nepal. And we cannot have much faith on other countries also. But you see, Pakistan and China are the greatest challenge for India. And out of the two, China is a greater threat than Pakistan, because China is much, much stronger, bigger, possessing all sophisticated technology with them. So how you can protect your boundaries, it is an important job. And for that also, we all know that wars are just remotest possibility to occur wars among the countries. If there shall be war, it will be Third World War. But protection of boundaries and getting information what is happening on the boundaries is the essential job of our defense strategists or country persons, our policymakers, our national leaders. And I think if one technology of remote sensing, sitting anywhere, what is happening on your boundaries is being brought to your notice, and quicker actions can be taken. then things can be resolved. And I would like to quote the example of the Kargil war. You see, military forces are coming from Pakistan, not only 1-2 kilometers, 100,000 kilometers coming inside our country. And I think it was the case of 1999, if I am correct, it's May 99, July 99. And when they have come, you see, got their roots on different peaks of Kargil, then we are awakening from our sleep as such. And we have lost about more than 500 Shaheed military persons have died in that war. 527 is the exact number. These lives could have been saved as such. So one particular thing I would like to mention that before using of technology for economy or some other things, defending the boundaries is the most important job as such. But that is not sufficient. Economy has to be strong because economy provides us a food. Economy provides you clothing. Economy provides you shelter. Economy provides you infrastructure. Economy provides you education. Economy provides you health. Economy provides you industries. Economy generates employment. Economy provide you a relationship vis-a-vis the world. So, economy and self-reliance generally has become concept just attached, prefixed with the economy. So, we'll have to see the structure of the economy. Our structure of economy is not that big as some developed countries are having. Big does not mean in case of population. Big in not the sense also as capital or like that. I am talking about the very structure of our economy. We know that our economy is the economy of villages. There are over 6.8 villages with us. And within villages also, very few persons are having this large land holding which is more than 10 hectares of land. Most of the land holders are small, medium or some marginal sizes. And they range between 90 to 99%. So what type of technology we should adopt to? We have imported somewhere manufactured also very big large size tractors. And say agriculturists should go for this is a big tractor as such. Now my question is whether Indian agriculture based economy requires those big size of tractors as such, or we should go for some mini tractors, small size tractors with little horsepower tractors as such. And here lies the crux of the appropriate technology. It's about 90% landholders are small, marginal, and medium-sized farmers. Then our technology to plow the land should be based upon the small-sized tractors, which has never ever been thought of by neither the technocrats or the engineers or the policymakers. The appropriate nest of the technology, a structure, a specific technology should go for that particular structure which India possesses it. I am just leaving this particular bullet here itself. It may be some supplement technology like tractors, pillars, like that. One more thing. You see, if you want to make it self-reliant agriculture, then the land must be self-reliant. We have been increasing productivity on the basis of exogenous use of the chemical fertilizers coupled with the insecticides. The irrigation, use of chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, and hybrid varieties of seeds. This combines, it totally envelops the green revolution as such. Okay, we have increased our production from about 50 million tons to 293 million tons today. But at what cost? The latent potent of the soil is diminishing day by day. Our land is not becoming sustainable. How much this chemical fertilizers be used, how much can they be absorbed by mother land will have to be studied carefully. Otherwise, what will happen? One time, the land, per se, lo behold, it starts retaliating, saying that I am not going to accept your chemical fertilizer, insecticide, pesticide because they are damaging my native health. It's happening. I'll just give you one example. You see, more use of this chemical fertilizer, insecticide has started. Affecting the quality of these cereals, the wheat. And the NIT is based in Jalandhar, that is a part of Punjab, important part of Punjab. The Punjab is one which grows the wheat the maximum in our country. But at the same time, there is one particular train which is known as cancer train, which runs every day from Chandigarh to Ahmedabad for the treatment of the cancer patient. So, the appropriate technology for agriculture is concerned is that we should go for organic farming. We go for a zero-based farming as such, which contains the quality, latent potential of the land itself, sustains the potency of the land itself, and also improves the quality ingredients of the wheat and other cereals, so that land is also sustainable, and sustainable is the health of those who eat these products. This is what I mean by appropriate technology. You see, within agriculture, one thing I would like to mention, then leave all other persons to develop this particular. The basic infrastructure for agriculture is irrigation. Until date, we could not provide sufficient irrigation to our land as such. Country has got about 91% total land area. Out of about 51% land is being cultivated, that is arable land, and out of only 40% is irrigated land. There is an urgent need to irrigate land further. But what type of irrigation systems we are going to adopt? Digging and digging. Every time we see digging, we see wells under the ground and depleting. You see groundwater, you see plateau. That is not the objective. We should go for estimating that groundwater level, the point at which water is available, and how much water do you require, a balance between the requirement and balance between the excavation of the groundwater, that will go for the irrigation facilities. And here I would like to mention, so much so our rainwater is not being properly harvested. What should we do? We should go for that appropriate technology which harvests the rainwater and irrigates land, provides the water to our animal population, provides water to irrigate the forest land as such, and in case of emergency to persons also with some sanitation, in some testing like that. So, this appropriate technology has got a wider meaning vis-a-vis. Similarly, there is a chain of activity. More so, agriculture is one thing. And nowadays everybody is talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, everything. Because we have seen about 4.4 crore labor force were just going back to the native villages because they were not having sufficient income with them to feed themselves for even 15 days. There was a choice whether they should die there itself without having sufficient income, or they should go and find some solace in their villages, some psychological, solace, some physical also. So they started running away. Then the entire model was thought of whether the industries should be settled, centralized in some pockets of the country, which may be about 20 bigger cities and 10 much, much bigger cities, or they should be decentralized widely, they should be spread widely and all over the countries as such. And what should be the point on which we should try to localize these industries where labor is available. Labor is available in the states like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Bihar, some part of Rajasthan, some part of the Bengal. Then there should be industrialization also should go on these places. And here also the local resources should be used. Local resources may be generated out of agriculture. Local resources come out by the under the ground resources. There may be some forest resources. There may be some resources coming from livestock, some water resources. There one particular group of resources should be there. And in every part of our country, in every village of the country, cluster village country, some local skill are available. And that local skill should be hooked with those local resources. With the help of some technology. Without technology, those resources cannot be converted into consumable items. Whether it is honey bee, whether it is deshi ghee, whether it is the pots of earthen pots, whether it is anything else. Some technology is essential. It is having bigger market, bigger harvesting, with bigger resources being sold in the market with purchasing power as such, shall have to be replaced by the appropriate technology being provided in the hands of those local skill owners, which can go and convert fragrance into essence. खुशबू से इत्र बनाने की कला भारतवर्ष के लोगों के पास बहुत से पहले थी और इत्र के व्यापार के लिए ही ये लोग समझे जाते थे। फूल से तो इत्र बनाया ही, जमीन की जो खुशबू होती, धरती की सुगंध, वो भी इत्र में कन्वर्ट करने की कला इनके पास में आती थी। मैं उस तरफ नहीं जाना चाहता, मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि विद ऑल गुड technological institutions should come forward and provide some helping tools, technologies with this local craftsmen, local person with which they can go and translate that local material into a consumable item which can be consumed by themselves as well as others also that can be sold in the market. And when we say that vocal for local, means that whatever things are being produced by them, we should try to protect them, we should try to propagate them because they are ours. Qualitatively, they may not be at par with the international standard or national standard, but for purity as such, Shuddhata ki drishti, from the point of purity, they may be much, much superior than any other commodity in India and outside. They may not have that a brand image as such, but the purity should have its own image. In that direction also will have to come. And at the same time, I would like to say that these local producers also should not try to exploit the feelings, the emotions of the purchaser, the consumers. The Indian of Swadeshi, Indian of purity, anything can be sold as such. That's another right that I would like to mention. So, in India, we are having a big number of MSMEs, micro, small, and medium scale industry. In lakhs and lakhs, more than 50 to 60 lakhs persons are there. For them also, this technology which suits to their skill, to their area, to their resources should be developed, and so that there should be broad-based assets. Within services also, because services are also very essential component of our economy. Though I don't agree the types of services are coming up. The organized sector has developed unorganized sector also. Within unorganized sector, 81% population is working as such. So for them also, the type of technology which suits their innate base and also resources available, his requirement, that type of technology should be developed. Here I would like to give certain suggestions as such. Within agriculture, I told you that our country is quite fragmented, but it lives in 6.8 degrees as such. Similarly, the very good population of India is below the poverty line. They don't have that much purchasing power to purchase the industrial products. So what should we do? We should go for some miniaturizing, miniatures, or mini level of a certain big industry like that. For example, we are having very big steel plants. Can't we think of mini steel plants as such? Can't we think of mini cement plants also? Can't we think of mini power generation centers also? If we are just minimizing, reducing this big scale, reducing does not mean dividing that particular scale. We are just taking the Xerox copy of those large industries and providing at ground level, especially village level economy. I think things would be developed. Their types of technology to be developed will be the appropriate to the situation that will be absorbed by those people as such. So what I mean to say that appropriate technology shall have to be seen in the terms that whether that technology is being digested, absorbed by the persons who are using that technology, maybe agriculture, maybe persons related to industries, maybe persons related to services. So what's happening? As I told you earlier also that India depends upon, so far as foreign trade is concerned, technology, that is defense technology and energy resources. The appropriate technology is very much essential so far as conservation of nature is concerned. Today, the developed technology is developed, very much developed. It may be highly productive, but at the same time, it is not nature friendly, it is not environment friendly. It damages the environment to a greater extent. The carbon dioxide, the chlorofluorocarbons, the monoxide, and many other toxic gases are being emitted by these industries through the production process only, which are damaging the nature by a great margin. They are polluting our river system. They are mainly responsible for deforestation in a big manner, and also they are responsible for depletion of the ozone layer. So the appropriate technology shall have to be developed, and we cannot depend upon developed nations to go for this so that nature is protected. Day before yesterday, we celebrated World Environment Day. It was from the 5th June of 1974. We have been celebrating this particular day. But the environment could not be saved. The degree and direction of climate change could not be reversed, so that nature and man relationships are also protected properly. And here lies the role of appropriate technology. Appropriate technology, in one example for agriculture, I told you that technology should be as such which sustains the latent potent of the land. Similarly, I am talking about the environment. There should be energy saving. If we are more depending upon commercial sources of energy, I think things won't help. This big source of energy, that is sun. Solar energy shall have to be developed in a bigger manner as well. Many people have been talking about the solar energy as such, but till date it is not that much convenient as it should be. It is not as reliable as it should be. So the scientists, the technologists, the photovoltaic experts should come forward so that the solar energy is harvested properly and also captured properly. And when there is no sun, even then, that can be used for obviously day-to-day function aspect. That is another very much important aspect. Because until energy and environment sustainability is not there, I think there will not be any life. The appropriate technology should be as such that helps the nature also to recycle, recharge, reboot, take rest also for some time so that things are regenerated to be consumed by the mankind as such. So my dear friends, what I mean to say that from economy, from defense, the health technology is also very much important. Today we are all depending upon the allopathic system of medicine. Allopathy is good in case of emergency and also in case of Shalya Chikitsa, in case of operation like that. It's very useful. But you see, each allopathy medicine has got side effects. It weakens our body system. We are having several other systems based upon Ayurveda, that is herbs converting into certain medicines, science private, and in fact technology is available with us. We are having Unani methods, we are having homeopathy systems. So those systems should also be coupled with the allopathy to get good health effects. Similarly, for mental health also, various machines have been developed to map the level of our mind as such. But neurology is thinking, those neurological instruments have also been developed by the scientists. But they shall also be appropriate, because the psychology of our India may not be the same as those of the Western world. They are thinking in terms of consumption, that thinking in terms of advertisement, conspicuosity, and everything. We are not thinking in that situation. We are thinking in terms of sacrifice. We are thinking in terms of satisfaction. We are thinking in terms of distribution. We are thinking in terms of sharing our things with others. So that neurological mapping of Indian psychology shall have to be different from this Western psychology aspect. In that direction also, we'll have to think. Similarly, as I told you earlier also, there cannot be anything which cannot be covered under the purview of this technology and such. The language connects. As I told you this, anything which connects is technology. The language connects. Language connects whatever language we are speaking. And we have been implementing this particular idea, we have realizing this fact also. Without language also there is some connectivity. मौन का जिसे हम बात कहते हैं, वो उसकी अलग तकनीकी दूसरे स्तर पर हो जाती है. लैंग्वेज की टेक्नोलॉजी में लैंग्वेज लैब हमने बना दी. लैंग्वेज लैब में there is the inbuilt translation mechanism. There is inbuilt pronunciation mechanism, so that you can hear, if you are Hindi speaking, anything which is being spoken in our national languages, that can be automatically translated into Hindi. That technology has been mentioned. But here also I would like to mention that what are the things we are providing to them, that is more important. Whether our own culture and civilization is being imparted through these languages, language labs, which will make our society more healthy, more connected. That will be more important. That's about the language. So, appropriateness of any technology. Number one, I told you that technology is changing. But technology should be culture is specific, the structure is specific, the civilization is specific, our psychology is specific, our neurology is specific, which is totally absorbed, which is regenerated, which can be recreated, which transforms in itself, which improves also from within, and also which is sustainable. Most important job is to connect. If any technology which is connecting your body yourself, connecting yourself with other persons of the society, which is connecting the whole world as such, bringing into the one particular world as such, that technology is the appropriate one. And that technology which is exploitative, which exploits the nature, which exploits the individuals, which exploits the countries in the name of trade and technology, which is not sustainable. That is not appropriate. I am speaking, taking the example of India, but it's a universal definition which I am giving to you of the appropriate technology, whether they are the developed nations, G8 or minus G8 countries. There are about 195 countries in the world hooked with the United Nations. 20 countries are the developed very big countries, and 175 countries are not. So whatever country is there, they should think in this direction and then try to develop their own technology, and the countries which have developed technology, they should also think the interest of those countries which are not having that much technology level as such. They should try to help them. When there was a globalization, they were thinking that India and other developing countries will be having the best technologies available in the world will come to us. That has not happened. And I think God has saved us that we have not got that technology, because each technology brings its own culture. No technology is cultural neutral. So we should have culture specific technology. With these words, I thank Professor Aditya Awasthi for opportunity me to deliver, share some of my thoughts with all of you. Thank Mr. Sachdeva for connecting. ICT is also good, but we should not be totally dependent upon this ICT. It has given some leverage at this time, but sooner lockdown is over, there should be connectivity between the teacher and the taught. And for ICT also, I would like to say that our dependence upon countries like China, Japan, and States should be minimized to the maximum to develop our own technology for this artificial intelligence. Thank you very much. Vande Mataram.
Thanks, sir, for the wonderful talk. Now, I request from the participants too, if there is any question. Any question from the audience?
Yeah, I have a question. Let me identify myself. I'm Dr. Pankaj Khare from IGNOU, New Delhi.
Okay, so now I request our Worthy Director to conclude the session.
Am I not audible, sir?
Good afternoon to everyone connected. आचार्य अरुण दिवाकर नाथ वाजपेयी जी ने बहुत ही अच्छी तरह से इस टॉपिक को एक्सप्लेन किया, और मैं इनका धन्यवादी हूं कि इन्होंने सब लोगों में वो चीज एक प्रोवोक की, ताकि हम एक सस्टेनेबल, रिलायंट, सेल्फ रिलायंट भारत के लिए काम कर सकें। इन्होंने हर टेक्निक, हर फील्ड को टच किया है। मुझे लगता है टेक्नोलॉजी पे इनका ज़्यादा रहा फोकस, और मेडिकल साइंसेस, देन इकोनॉमी, और सभी एस्पेक्ट्स को इन्होंने टच किया। और अगर हम छोटी सी लाइन में कहना चाहें तो ये एक गागर में सागर भर के इन्होंने सबको प्रेजेंट किया है, जिससे कि मुझे लगता है कि इससे काफी हद तक हमारे जो नए साइंटिस्ट हैं, टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट हैं, उनको डायरेक्शन मिलेगी, दिशा मिलेगी। इन्होंने टच किया हमारा ये ओवर डिपेंडेंस ऑन चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट और एनी अदर कंट्रीज प्रोडक्ट। तो हमें चाहिए कि हम लोग यहाँ पे कुछ टेक्नोलॉजीज को डेवलप करें जो कि सेल्फ रिलायंट हो, और वी शुड बी एबल टू गिव आवर बेस्ट टू द कंट्री। जो यहाँ जितने भी टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट कनेक्टेड हैं, मेरा आह्वान है कि सभी लोग आगे आएं और इसमें अपना योगदान दें। हम छोटी छोटी चीजों में, टेक्नोलॉजी में अगर देखेंगे, मोबाइल फोन देखेंगे, कंप्यूटर सिस्टम देखेंगे, तो वी आर over dependent on the world, and mostly these equipments are coming from China directly and indirectly. तो हमें अपने आप को सेल्फ रिलायंट बनाने के लिए ये टेक्नोलॉजीज इन हाउस डेवलप करनी पड़ेंगी, और इसमें डेफिनेटली जो टेक्नोलॉजी संस्थान है, जैसे IITs हैं, NITs हैं, उनका योगदान मेजर रहेगा। तो जो फैकल्टी मेंबर्स IIT और NIT से कनेक्टेड हैं, मेरा यह आह्वान है कि वो सब मिल करके आगे आएं और एक सेल्फ रिलायंट भारत की नींव रखें, जिसमें दो चीजें इन्होंने मुख्यतः बोली हैं। एक है टेक्नोलॉजी और दूसरी है एनर्जी। तो दोनों ही बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हैं। इफ वी connect other aspects, then we can look for technology for self-sustainable agriculture, technology for having maybe good equipments, telecommunication equipments or computational equipments in country, in our own country, and similarly the self-sustainable power system, maybe solar energy. So new technologies have to be developed by our technologists, and all need to come together so that we can contribute for a self-reliant Bharat. Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Namaste. Namaste.
During the session. In fact, sir, there are 2 or 3 queries. First one is from Pankaj Khare, Mr. Pankaj Khare. Can you speak, Mr. Pankaj Khare?
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are.
Sir, I was
Pankaj?
just wondering about the divide between the physical and digital world. When we are migrating to the technology, what will be the role of technology in this migration, which curves the divide between physical and digital world? Thank you.
Actually, you see, the problem of today, virtually it was a totally unwanted and totally immediate it has come up. And that cannot be solved, and there cannot be see that divide as that digital divide cannot be problem, cannot solve the problem of those physical labors as such. But in future, we'll have to develop a model through which these laborers who are migrating from villages to cities for the employment purposes or education purposes. So the employment and educational facilities will have to be generated there itself, and for that we'll have to use all this digital technology and other. Here also I would like to mention these simple mobile phones have also helped these labor a lot so far as connecting with their own families in villages. Because I belong to a family villages, you know, Pankaj, very well. See, some labor force was coming from Delhi to my place in Hardoi. Through telephone only, they were giving that information to them. We are coming now. We have reached this way, and they were also asking about this welfare like that. Another thing I would like to mention: this is the Tablighi Jamati people now. When they left the Markaz, went to the different places. How do we get the information? Where have they gone through? Through this mobile. See, there is a device that mobile, the location of mobile can be known by another particular device. From there only we could locate and control the situation in a big manner. So appropriate technology means that there should be a combination of the physical requirements and also the digital device.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pankaj. And this has helped a lot also digital device because the requirement of food, you see, there should be the transportation, their control, there is the contamination by this coronavirus. All things have been got to know about this digital device only. The utility of this digital device cannot be undermined.
Thank you, sir. There is one more query from Ms. Palvi Garg. She wanted to ask regarding the pillars of the self-reliant India movement. Pillars of self-reliant India movement.
Yes, yes. Actually, the self-reliance concept as such is not a new one. Was third fire plan gave a particular target of creating a self-reliant India. First plan based upon agriculture and increasing productivity like that. Second was based upon industrialization, heavy industrialization as public sectorization economy. And third fire plan, planners thought to have self-reliant economy. But afterwards they had simply forgotten. But on this, I think 12th of May, when our Prime Minister was speaking, giving different package of 20 lakhs crore rupees, then he thought about self-reliant India, Swadeshi for self-reliance, local for vocal, like that. So he mentioned about some pillars. Actually, these pillars are intertwined, they are mixed with each other. Had I been an advisor to Prime Minister, I said one pillar is sufficient. When he was saying that the economy, then infrastructure, then technology run device, then demography, then demand. He said about this four pillars like that. And when we get economy is all comprehensive. Economy includes infrastructure, economy includes device, economy includes the system, economy includes the demography, economy includes demand assets. All five pillars are in one only. But because he wanted to give a stress upon individual items, that's why he said that infrastructure, maybe the road infrastructure, railways, bridges like that, that should be developed, because without that the development will not take place. Similarly, technology-based device he talked about. You see, devices very many, but you see, he himself gave importance to this technology, because without technology, connectivity is not there. Today we are connected with the world because this technology is there, whether it is imported, indigenous or anything. Internet is there, and for that we should be thankful to J.C. Bose. J.C. Bose, I am taking he is our scientist who first of all he invented this wireless communication system. Marconi got the credit for this because his paper was published earlier than that of J.C. Bose. And J.C. Bose had left physics only by way of retaliation. So that ICT is important, technical device. Then demography. Demography means we are having good young person, young energetic people. So a skill must be given them. Then demand is also very much important. Supply is okay. Supply chain is interrupted, but that supply interruption of supply chain can be easily recovered. But how to generate demand? So it is one part. Another part of pillars which Pallavi must be thinking about. I don't know whether she is a lady from economics. He said about land, labor, liquidity, and law. all these four else also he talked about. Land, which I have just mentioned about. Labor problems we have seen like that. So appropriate technology, which I mentioned, that labor specific also. And there has been two types of technology: labor intensive or capital intensive technology. That's why I did not mention. We are depending more upon capital intensive technology. But labor intensive technology can also not be appropriate, which is not be fitting to the present situation today. So there should be a happy marriage between the labor and the capital intensive technology. That's why I said the appropriate technology. Brown labor shall have to be dealt properly. Liquidity crunch is there in the society, but liquidity is also asymmetrically distributed. When I was saying that India, 10% India has got to see much of liquidity with them, and 90% of India is not having sufficient liquidity. How that liquidity is siphoned towards those persons who are not having liquidity with purchasing power? That's a big question. And law is also important. I don't know which type of law I was talking, law to control present, because in future also we are going to encounter many lawlessness situations, because the persons who are being fed by the state nowadays, suppose the state feeding is not there, what will you do? हम जानते बुभुक्षिता क्षुण्ण करोति पापम. Poverty is a great sin. If they are going towards that, they are adopting to that particular line of action, how to control them? So I think these are the basic pillars of Atmanirbharta. Pallavi, I think, maybe referring to. I've just given my answer. Yes, Anish.
Thank you, sir. Due to limited time, we will not be able to take all the queries. Those who have queries, they can directly contact with the Professor Vajpayee. So we can share his email ID with you, people. So you can raise the queries with him directly. So now we are in the session, and I invite Professor R.K. Garg, who is the coordinator of the program, to propose vote of thanks.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, sir.
It's really important to say regards to everybody who has attended this meeting and made it possible. First of all, I am thankful to you, sir, that you cleared so much time out of your busy schedule and made it possible. And these days, we see that this is the word of webinar, and so many talks are going on, not only in our place, rather across the globe. But out of so many webinars, I found this particular webinar quite informative. As far as the topic is concerned, that is the appropriate technology for self-reliant Bharat. I think from the lecture, it has been made 100% possible. As far as important points, of course, has been discussed by Professor Awasthi and Professor Sachdeva. But even then, a few words which I have noticed, I find really very, very important. One is during the last few years, maybe 10, 20 years, there has been a explosion of technology across the world. And also basically addicted to technology. Second thing, which is taken by Professor Vajpayee, is geographical positioning of India, where we are having the common boundary with 7 countries. When all the countries have different cultures, different statistics of every type, how a common technology can be the best technology for all? India is going to have its own specific problems, so then technology should be indigenous. We cannot compare our resources with US, UK or other countries, because in our country, the biggest resource has been our manpower. And the biggest profession of all this manpower is agriculture. In that case, it has been taken in a very big way by Professor Vajpayee that we should be self-reliant through indigenous technologies and appropriate technologies. According to him, the appropriate technology means using Indian resources. I think all of our universities, IITs, NITs, and other technical institutions, they will be able to help a lot in this particular mission. Thanks a lot, sir. For this particular webinar, I am highly grateful to Professor Lalit Kumar Avasthi, Director NIT Jalandhar, who gave us the permission to organize such webinar. I am thankful to Professor Arun Divakar Nath Vajpayee ji, who spared
Thank you.
valuable time. I am thankful to all the participants. I am happy to share that more than 100 participants, they joined on the line for this particular webinar, and majority of them has been outside Punjab. So I am really happy that the lecture has been listened by so many people across India. I am thankful to the organizers, especially Professor Sachdeva and Bhupendra Dhani, who has made this webinar possible using indigenous technology. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody. Thank you, sir.